the Senate is not close to passing this bill. They did get the support of Susan Collins, who said that she wasn't going to support a previous version that, in her mind, would have required people to prove citizenship every time they cast a ballot. She just jumped on board, but they're not near the 60 that they need. And so far, there's not anywhere near enough support to break the filibuster to enact this. And the president is saying he's got another option. He posted this: if we can't get it through Congress, there are legal reasons why this scam is not permitted. I will be presenting it shortly in the form of an executive order. I hope the Supreme Court realizes that these corrupt and deranged Democrats, if they ever gain power, will not only be adding 2 seats to our roster of 50 with all the baggage there too, but will pack the court with a total of 21 Supreme Court justices. Their dream, which they will submit easily and rapidly when they move to terminate the filibuster. His point is that Democrats, when they take power, will terminate the filibuster. Do you see this happening in Congress? So far Republicans have not been eager to jump on board with that idea.
Yeah, well, it has to happen in Congress. The problem with an executive order, well-intentioned as it might be, is that as soon as it's signed, some district judge somewhere in the country is going to strike it down as illegal. We've seen this over and over again since Trump took office last year. And the Senate can pass the Save America Act, but it needs to bring back the talking filibuster and dispense with this idea that they need 60 votes in order to do their jobs and govern the country, which is what they were elected to do. And they really should take a lesson from Democrats on this. You look at what's happening in Virginia right now with Democrats' totally illegal, unconstitutional power grab in their gerrymandering attempt. And Trump is right. Democrats are going to do this across the entire country. They're not governing by any set of rules or any set of principles, except for the one that allows them to win and maintain power. Republicans can either play the exact same way, or they can lose to the left repeatedly over the next couple of years.
Yeah, to your point about the gerrymandering, Democrats in control of the Virginia legislature fast-tracking this new congressional map. It could turn the state's 6-1 Republican advantage into a 10-1 Democrat advantage ahead of midterms. And it comes as voters in that state are looking at a ballot measure this spring that would turn over control of redistricting from the nonpartisan commission to the partisan legislature. How do you see that turning out? And do you think at all, looking back on the president's push to do this mid-cycle redistricting, will cost Republicans, at least in the short term?
Yeah, we'll see how it ends up playing out. I do think, as a conservative who lives in the DMV, what I find most insulting about Virginia Democrats' efforts here is the language that they're using on this referendum. They're telling voters to vote for it in order to, quote-unquote, restore fairness to Virginia's maps. That is about as Orwellian as it could get. Look, Virginia's current congressional map has been bipartisanly rated as one of the most fair maps in the entire country. Turning this into a 10-1 for Democrats congressional map is the very definition of unfairness. You're essentially disenfranchising half of the state that consistently votes for Republicans. I wish that the state Supreme Court would have been a bit more assertive in striking this down as unconstitutional, which it is. But it might end up being up to the Supreme Court in D.C. to do something about it if it goes through.
Yeah, hot topic. We will be watching that closely. It could be very consequential. Kelly McGee-White, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Really appreciate it. Thanks. And be sure to tune in tonight at 5 o'clock Eastern to catch Kaylee on the Big Weekend Show with co-hosts Joey Jones, Tommy Lahren, and Kevin Cork. All right, it's almost time to start your engines. Coming up, we'll take you live to Daytona International Speedway.
Okay, you got this. It's just a laxative. How scary could it be? You can do hard things.
Honey, relax. It's Miralax. It works with the water in your body to hydrate and soften for gentle relief.
Relax. It's Miralax. Like a relentless weed, moderate to severe ulcerative colitis symptoms can keep coming back. Break away to what's possible with Tremfya, with rapid relief at 4 weeks. Many people experience remission at 1 and even 2 years. Some saw 100% visible healing of their intestinal lining. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infection. For treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Healing is possible with Tremfya. Tremfya now offers self-administration from the start. Ask your doctor about Tremfya today.
The Lumify effect. One drop dramatically reduces redness for brighter, whiter photos and you'll keep it. Wow. Lumify works in 1 minute and lasts up to 8 hours. See what all the hype is about with the one and only Lumify.
What will you do when the power goes out? Power outages can be unpredictable and inconvenient, but with a Generac home standby generator, your life goes on uninterrupted because you'll have power when you need it the most. Special financing and low monthly payment options are available. And if you call now, you will also receive a free 5-year warranty valued at over $500. Call or go online now to request your free quote. Power your life with Generac.
It's Pod's epic savings event. Save up to 25% on moving and storage until February 16th and see why Pods is America's #1 container moving company. Whether you're relocating or renovating, save up to 25% at pods.com today.
Diplomacy cannot work, not because of President Trump, but because of the Iranian regime's ideology.
Josh Hammer and Jack King break down the latest on Lake Liberty Levin.
I'm Attorney General Ken Paxton. I'm proud to endorse Aaron Rice to be our next Attorney General. Aaron Rice is a fighter. He fought as a Marine in Afghanistan, and he fights the radical left here at home. That's why President Trump called Aaron Rice a warrior for our Constitution. Aaron Rice knows that Democrats want to destroy Texas, and he's the battle-tested conservative. We need to fight back and win. I'm Ken Paxton. Vote Aaron Rice for Texas Attorney General.
But in many ways, worse than the terrible Democrats are the backstabbing rhino Republicans.
Take Washington's Wesley Hunt. Hunt didn't even vote for President Trump. Yet as radicals were burning campuses, Hunt voted with AOC and Hate America liberals. Because Washington Wesley is no conservative, he's a backstabbing rhino Texas conservatives can't trust. Conservative Texans PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
I don't have a lot of extra time. 4 kids, working full time. I definitely have my hands full. My experience with contesting property taxes is a big hassle. Elmo was really easy. There's no upfront cost. They don't
Fuck!
I spent 5 minutes
It's working.
Information.
Almost there.
$400. The time savings with LML has allowed me to spend more time with my family. I didn't have to spend any time protesting my taxes. It was like magic.
NASCAR Cup Series is kicking off today with the Daytona 500. 41 drivers are taking the field to compete in the Great American Race. Today's start time has been moved up an hour due to threats of bad weather. It all begins at 1:30 Eastern on Fox and the Fox app. Let's go to Madison Scarpino at the Daytona International Speedway, who is wearing just an excellent jacket. Madison.
Thank you, Jackie. I had to get on beep, you know. As far as the weather, it's holding up right now. The green flag is scheduled for just after 2 p.m., but fans have been packing the speedway since early this morning, and many of them have been here for several days now.
It is very unlike any other sporting event, for sure. It's a spectacle of racing. You know, Daytona 500, you know, I went when I was a kid, so, you know, it's fun to be back. You know, get tailgate, drink beer for a week.
It's really fun. It's not my first time. I've been here a lot of times. It's been really fun.
So there's tons of fun pre-race events here. Fans can get out on the track right now. Marshall Lambert will be performing the next hour. And the iconic Air Force Thunderbirds will be doing their first public showing of their season. We've been seeing them practice over the last few days. It's awesome. It's extremely loud. One of the pilots tells us they're going to be ripping around for 7 minutes after the flyover before the drivers start their engines. And Jackie, this year the drivers are competing for the largest prize ever in Daytona 500 history, more than $31 million. Back to you.
That is just an awesome assignment. I'm very jealous, and if they make that jacket in a small, I will Venmo you. So enjoy the rest of your day.
I got you, Jackie.
Awesome. Thanks, Madison. And that is a lid on this edition of the Sunday Briefing. I'm Jackie Heinrich in Washington. Fox News Live is next. We'll see you next week.
For adults with type 2 diabetes, do you know about Mounjaro? With Mounjaro, 3 out of 4 people reached an A1C of less than 7%. Plus, people lost up to 25 pounds. Don't take Mounjaro if you're allergic to it, or if you or someone in your family had medullary thyroid cancer or multiple endocrine neoplasia syndrome type 2.
Stop and call your doctor right away if you have an allergic reaction, a lump or swelling in your neck, severe stomach pain, or vision changes. Serious side effects may include inflamed pancreas and gallbladder problems. Taking Mounjaro with a sulfonylurea or insulin may cause low blood sugar. Tell your doctor if you're nursing, pregnant, plan to be, or taking birth control pills. And before scheduled procedures with anesthesia. Side effects include nausea, diarrhea, and vomiting, which can cause dehydration and may cause kidney problems. Get to know Mounjaro at mounjaro.com. Ask your doctor about once-weekly Mounjaro.
The crisis inside Ukraine has reached a catastrophic level, with the elderly Jews pushed to the very limit.
It's freezing cold. There's no electricity, no heat, no water. Winter is now a weapon of war, used against the elderly, the mothers, and the young children.
They've been lined up here for hours. These are precious people who are hungry. They have nothing. If someone doesn't do something soon, a humanitarian disaster is coming. So many Jewish people who are just waiting for someone to care enough to pick up the phone.
Fears are growing that without an emergency, full-scale response, thousands will die this winter.
The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews needs your $25 gift now to help rush a winter survival food box of emergency food for elderly Jews and families in Ukraine. Time is critical. Please give now.
Faith felt the shaking of missiles. These are people who have already endured so much suffering and disaster.
The fellowship has been here and across the former Soviet Union for decades, but the need has never been more urgent.
Taking out power, taking out water, sending water to drink. We're talking about the difference between life or death. Christian, Jew, standing shoulder to shoulder, saying, we're here to heal, we're here to help.
Your gift of only $25 helps rush a winter survival food box filled with life-saving emergency food for elderly Jews and families in Ukraine who are struggling daily to stay warm and fed. Please call or go online while there is still time.
One of my favorite supplements is Qunol turmeric. Turmeric helps with healthy joints and inflammation support, and Qunol has the #1 doctor-recommended form of turmeric. Qunol, the brand I trust.
Maduro took crime and corruption to new levels.
He's one of the biggest drug traffickers in the world.
Maduro and his wife will soon face the full might of American justice and state trial.
2 weeks ago today, Nancy Guthrie disappeared from her Tucson, Arizona home in the middle of the night. It is a story that has captivated the nation. Who took the 84-year-old woman and where is she? Welcome to Fox News Live. I'm Mike Emanuel in Washington. This man is believed to be the suspect behind Guthrie's disappearance. The FBI says he's about 5'10" with an average build. The Bureau is offering $100,000 for information leading to his arrest. 2 intense searches so far have led to nothing. Thousands of leads taking police nearly to the border with Mexico. The Pima County Sheriff telling Fox News moments ago, forensic results are pending at a private lab in Florida. Let's bring in cybersecurity expert and former FBI agent Morgan Wright. Morgan, welcome.
Hi, Mike. Good morning.
So here we are, 2 weeks in. What's the key to breaking this case and bringing Nancy Guthrie home?
Yeah, Mike, I've been out here since Thursday, but I've been saying the same thing each time. There's 3 pillars to this case. There's the timing, getting the timeline down, so that we can, as we start to look at evidence or people, we can make sure that they fit the frame. The second is technology, right? Technology like DNA, like cell phones, like forensics, that's going to help. And then the third thing is behavior. We're looking at the behavior of the suspect on video, changes in behavior, and then also behavior in terms of how people commit these kinds of crimes. So between those 3 things, I think we have all the data we need to solve the case right now, Mike. Now it's a matter of interpreting it correctly through the lens and the prism of the crime scene, through the timing, and making sure that those things align up, and when they align, then we can actually get more progress on the case.
We understand they've been using a helicopter with Bluetooth technology trying to track Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker. You're a tech guy. What do you think of that?
Well, look, I'll tell you who the smart one was. We were just talking about before you got on Dave Kennedy, trusted say him and I testified before Congress on healthcare.gov. We were going back and forth, how would we do that? And it's really what they're doing is that Bluetooth or that pacemaker is low power Bluetooth, but it emits a signal. The reason it emits a signal is so it can sync either with like a smartwatch or an iPhone. And so, but that thing has a unique address, and because of HIPAA and privacy, it's masked in a way that it can only sync with that phone. But if we know a certain key thing, it's called the MAC address. But if we know that, we can then, that's what you're scanning for. You're scanning for, you can also scan for Bluetooth signal, but in this case, if you know the address of the device, you can eliminate all the other noise. And if you got a ping, you have high confidence that that ping came from that device. So that's what they were doing. But a pacemaker, where if somebody dies, that pacemaker would still keep on. Those batteries will last sometimes for 10 years. So that's why sometimes at crime scenes that I've been on, you put the defibrillator paddles on, you see normal sinus rhythm, the person's dead, but that's because the pacemaker is still operating as long as that battery will last.
Okay, new developments from an FBI spokesperson telling Fox Digital the gloves found approximately 2 miles from the Guthrie residence in the field near the side of the road were packaged up by PCOS, the sheriff's office, and sent overnight on 2/12, and they arrived at the private lab in Florida on the 13th. The FBI received preliminary results yesterday on the 14th and are awaiting quality control and official confirmation today before putting unknown male profile into the system, the national database unique to the Bureau. This process typically takes 24 hours from when the Bureau receives DNA. Investigators collected approximately 16 gloves in various areas near the house. Most of them were searchers' gloves that they discarded in various areas when they searched the vicinity. The one with the DNA profile recovered is different and appears to match the gloves of the subject in the surveillance video. The FBI has and will continue to provide assistance on whatever timeline is provided to us. That from an FBI spokesman to our colleagues at Fox News Digital. Morgan, what's your reaction to that?
Yeah, so here's the key, Mike, on that. We know that from the sheriff's office, they said that there was no blood inside the house, but there was foreign DNA. So the question will be, you analyze that, now you take the glove, right? So if the DNA profile, and what it is, the system they're talking about, people who watch, all the crime shows, but it's called CODIS, the Combined DNA Indexing System. That is the one collection of simple connections that when you put in a profile, known or unknown, it compares it to all the other profiles in there and it makes a match. Sometimes you match an unknown profile to an unknown profile because they come from some of the crime scenes, but you'll find somebody that is a known profile and it matches your unknowns. So there's a probability that that DNA could go into that system, that there would be no hit at this time, or that there would be a hit at this time. The other thing too, we open up to is investigative genetic genealogy. The ability now to take this and use commercial services, GenMatch, Ancestry.com, some privacy issues there, but you can also do it that way. But for me, the key is where that glove was found. Does it match? And it's more than just DNA too, Mike. You can also look at, from my days investigating, and we know what the FBI can do, you can now match anything found at the scene. If there's a glove found somewhere else, you can match them to see, do they come from the same batch? Is their vegetation consistent with the vegetation at Nancy Guthrie's residence? That's inconsistent with where the glove was found, because you remember the video, the guy's pulling up a plant and doing it. So, fibers, if you're inside the house, you may touch DNA. You may pick up some of the cells of Nancy if you're holding on to a person, you get touch DNA, what's called epithelial cells. So there's a lot of ways other than the offender's DNA that we can tie that glove back to the crime scene.
Fascinating. Morgan Wright, grateful for your analysis and your time today. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Mike.
Now let's bring in my colleague, senior correspondent Alicia Cunha, who's been doing great work there in Tucson. Alicia, what's the latest from your perspective today?
Well, hi, Mike. Right now, actually, it's feeling a little bit more like a slowdown and a standstill in terms of the investigation from the outside. But from the inside, we are assured by investigators that they have a lot of work that is underway, especially when it comes to forensics. And we just got an update from Sheriff Chris Nanos here, who said that they are processing a number of gloves. They found up to 16 gloves. They have sent some of those in for DNA testing. They've received some of the results. There was a match to at least one of the gloves, one of the black gloves that has been found. However, they're not quite sure how many, there are so many gloves out there, it's making it very difficult for them because they have investigators picking up
These gloves, you've seen them searching the terrain and the roadways here. Some of them have been discarded by investigators, and some of them are true finds. So we're kind of in this point where we're also awaiting DNA testing. It could take up to 10 days on some of these forensics, so we wait. And it's 2 weeks to the day since Nancy Guthrie was reported missing.
So you've been out there every day interacting with law enforcement professionals from the local, state, and also federal level. Have you seen any sense of them getting demoralized because now we're 2 weeks into this investigation?
I think it's always tough for investigators, especially when you're looking into something that is so heartbreaking, an 84-year-old mother and grandmother, and you have national and international attention. I imagine it's got to be incredibly frustrating. When you see them doubling the reward, the FBI, that could be an indication that they are trying to put pressure on someone out there to give up something because the leads so far are not coming up with a significant enough answer. So I imagine it's 2 weeks, it's been tough. They're working around the clock. You've got to give them so much credit for all the work that they've been doing and working as hard as they can. But it's really frustrating. We still don't know where she is.
It makes me wonder whether time hurts an investigation or whether it's possible the suspect may get sloppy and or fatigued in time to make a huge mistake.
You bring up a really good point because the more time that goes by, it is really easy for someone who may be holding steady to start to relax, feeling that they can't be caught. But remember, the investigators here have also reached out to people who live within a 2-mile radius of Nancy Guthrie, and they've asked them to send them some of their footage that they find interesting or concerning, and it's dating all the way back from January 1st to February 2nd. It's going to take some time. That's mountains of evidence. It's going to take some time to sift through that, figure out what lead is a real lead and what lead doesn't really go anywhere. And there could be things in those little pieces of data that are going to be sent and that are being sent to investigators that could break this case. You just literally never know. You've covered this kind of stuff before, Mike. You just really know what's going to break a case.
What about the helicopter they're using, Alicia, trying to use technology to track Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker? I found that striking.
Yeah, it's very interesting, right? Fox News Digital reports that law enforcement has been using a Bluetooth scanner that they put on the bottom of a law enforcement helicopter. And we noticed this on February 3rd, 2 days after she had been reported missing, that there was a helicopter in this neighborhood right over her property, hovering over very specific areas, or at least they seemed very specific. And they were here for a good while. They were at least a half hour just hovering very close to the ground. It turns out they're trying to detect Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker, because the pacemaker is designed to try to reach its transmitter, to try to meet its app. It's trying to do that. So this scanner is trying to connect to the Bluetooth part of the pacemaker that's trying to talk to some kind of system. However, it's not a locator. The pacemaker we know doesn't have GPS or anything like that. So it's not as if they find it that they're going to locate the pacemaker exactly. But it does give them an indication that it's trying to reach something somewhere.
Let's hope and pray Nancy Guthrie's brought home safely soon. Alicia Kuhn, you've done a fantastic job. Alicia, thanks very much.
Thank you.
More on the Nancy Guthrie investigation ahead, but in the meantime, a reminder, anyone with information is asked to call the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI or the Pima County Sheriff tip line at 1-520-351-4900.
Well, in case we don't make a deal, we'll need it. How confident are you that our negotiations with Iran will be successful? I think they'll be successful, and if they're not, it's going to be a bad day for Iran. Very bad.
That's President Trump delivering a warning to the regime in Tehran that it's time to make a deal. But will they? Plus, Secretary of State Marco Rubio meeting with Ukraine, Zelensky, and Munich, and getting the attention of our European allies.
We want Europe to be strong. We believe that Europe must survive. Because the two great wars of the last century serve for us as history's constant reminder that ultimately our destiny is and will always be intertwined with yours.
6 times longer than Benadryl, relieving allergies the entire night. So you make refresh for a productive next day. See Lysol, take Lysol at night.
You know, WeatherTech isn't just for new cars. No matter how old or new your car is, it deserves WeatherTech. With laser measure protection for practically every car on the road, we've got you covered. Because messes don't care what year your car is. Whatever you're driving, we got it. We got it. We got it. Got it. We got it. We got it. Oh, we got it. No matter what year your vehicle is, it deserves WeatherTech. Order your American-made protection today at WTU.com. Or WeatherTech. You know we got it.
Sleep Number's best deals are on now, including 0% interest for 36 months on select purchases. Save on comfort that adapts to you night after night. Shop now for a limited time, only at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com.
I avoided the mirror. I felt alone for a long time. I remember going home praying for it to go away, not thinking there was something wrong with me.
I go into a lot of things thinking it's not going to work, and I thought muesli would be the same thing, but it actually worked.
More than 700,000 patients have regained their confidence with muesli's prescription treatments.
When you're hopeless, and then you find other women who are in the same boat as you, you suddenly feel okay. We're gonna get out of it together. That's what muesli did for me.
Hey guys, Viagra is not your only option. Grow Sparks act fast and stay active longer. They aren't pills. Sparks dissolve under your tongue to reach your bloodstream for speedy results. Connect with a provider at ro.co/sparks.
The Munich Security Conference. As world leaders gather to confront global conflict, how will the outcome impact America's foreign policy? Shannon has can't miss insight on the next Fox News Sunday.
Wait, use the shovel and bucket of water, remember? Drown, stir, drown, heal. Where'd you learn that? SmokeyBerry.com. Don't want to start a wildfire, right?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Sarah wants to invest in meme coins, but she can't decide which one. She has analysis paralysis. With Kraken bundles, Sarah can buy a mix of meme coins in one tap.
For decades, I've taught you everything I know. But only you can prevent wildfires.
Good to see you.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio meeting on the sidelines of the Munich Security Conference with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Secretary Rubio using the opportunity to reassure Zelensky the Trump administration wants to end Russia's war on his country once and for all. Stephanie Bennett is live in London with the latest on this story. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, Mike. Now, the push for peace is dire as we reach almost the 4-year mark of this war later this month. And there were some more overnight attacks across Ukraine from Russia and also into this morning. But President Volodymyr Zelensky and U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, they met up during that Munich Security Conference yesterday. Rubio wrote on X afterwards that President Trump wants a solution that ends the bloodshed once and for all. Of course, on Friday, President Trump said Russia wants to make a deal and Zelensky's going to have to get moving. Earlier this month, Zelensky said the U.S. set a June deadline to strike the peace agreement. Zelensky was asked at the conference if he was feeling pressure from the Trump administration. He replied, quote, a little bit. Trilateral talks will continue Tuesday in Geneva, but major obstacles remain, including territory in eastern Ukraine. Zelensky claims the U.S. told them an end can come as quickly as possible if Kyiv withdraws from the Donbass. He said Washington is too often asking for Ukraine, not Russia, to make concessions.
Ukraine keeps returning to one simple point: peace can only be built on clear security guarantees. Where there is no clear security system, war always returns.
During his speech at the Munich Security Conference, Mr. Rubio offered a reassuring message to European allies, saying America will always be a child of Europe and that the U.S. wants to revitalize an old friendship. He struck a firm tone about the administration's intent to reshape that alliance and push its priorities from tackling mass migration to strengthening our economies and military power. Rubio said he wants a strong Europe.
This is why we do not want our allies to be weak, because that makes us weaker. We want allies who can defend themselves so that no adversary will ever be tempted to test our collective strength.
And feeling those pressures, many European countries have stepped up their defense spending in the last year. Just yesterday, during that security conference, Prime Minister Keir Starmer said that Europe must stand on its own 2 feet, and he announced the UK will deploy a carrier strike team to the Arctic to help fight off any Russian threats. Mike?
Stephanie Bennett, thanks very much. The Iranian people's ask is very simple. They want liberty, they want freedom. And of course, I think President Trump realizes that when he said regime change might be the solution. This is something we've been asking for a long time. That's the exiled Iranian Crown Prince reacting to President Trump's call for regime change in Iran as the United States deploys the USS Gerald Ford and its escort ships to the Middle East. Lucas Tomlinson is following the president live in West Palm Beach, Florida. And Lucas, there's some news from the president today. What did he say?
Good afternoon, Mike. There is President Trump announcing that the initial meeting of the Board of Peace will be taking place this Thursday in Washington. About 20 countries have signed on and will be in Washington, along with the King of Bahrain, the first Arab leader to pledge his participation. He says he will be in Washington, and President Trump taking the Truth Social, announcing this news, saying, quote, on February 19th, we will announce that member states have pledged more than $5 billion toward the Gaza humanitarian reconstruction efforts, and thousands of personnel, the ISF, to maintain security. That's a big sticking point, Mike, when it comes to this international security force. Where will they come from? Speaking of turning out, thousands of Iranian Americans and supporters turned out in LA, and 250,000, as you can see here in Munich near the big security conference that Stephanie was just talking about. The headliner on stage was exiled Crown Prince, who we just heard from. Raza Pahlavi, Senator Lindsey Graham also taking the stage and told the crowd, quote, help is on the way, echoing what President Trump told Iranians protesting in the streets over a month ago. Part of that help could be this 100,000-ton aircraft carrier. As you mentioned, the USS Gerald R. Ford with its electromagnetic catapults and dozens of F-18 Super Hornets electronic warfare jets. While all this buildup continues in the Middle East, one Republican senator says it's not like the American troops we sent into Iran.
I think one of the things the president has been very clear about is that he does not want to see our troops on the ground in countries like Iran. I think what he's going to be looking to do, again, is put maximum pressure on Iran with regard to these negotiations. We also see, again, that you've got the people of Iran fighting for their own freedom, who are stepping up into the streets.
We have the Board of Peace meeting in Washington this week. We also have a second aircraft carrier strike group headed to the Middle East this weekend. As far as negotiations with the Iranians go, President Trump's team Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, his special envoys, are heading to Geneva to sit down with the Iranians on Tuesday. The Iranians say they're willing to compromise when it comes to their nuclear program, but say any compromise must be met with relaxation of sanctions. It's one reason, of course, those protesters took to the streets in the dire state of the Iranian economy.
President, busy week ahead. Lucas Tomlinson, thanks very much. Now let's bring in Hudson Institute Senior Fellow Rebecca Heinrichs. Rebecca, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So we've seen the military buildup in the region. In your view, is some kind of military action against the Iranian regime inevitable?
I think that is the direction that we're headed. That's kind of where all signs are pointing, Mike. Even there's some reporting where Special Envoy Witkoff and Jared Kushner are even pessimistic. They're the ones that have been sort of kind of leaving a little possibility that they could get to some sort of negotiated outcome with the Iran regime. they are now striking a pessimistic tone as well. And President Trump has said, look, it's not just the Iranian illicit nuclear program that we want the Iranians to dismantle. We want the ballistic missile program gone. We also want them to stop repressing their people. And that really does amount to a different regime. You're not going to get this old supreme leader at this point to surrender all those things that has made him what he is. The Iranian people are seeking now to overthrow at this point. President Trump said, if there is a massacre against the Iranian people, the United States will intervene. And of course there was. And so now you see this mounting pressure with military power in the region.
Prime Minister Netanyahu come to town to speak with the president about this issue, probably some others as well. Is there any evidence that conversation with Netanyahu may have changed things in terms of our direction and our focus at this point?
I think at this point, the United States is doing steps in a row. Who are the allies that we're going to be working with some kind of operation? I know that the Israelis with us, with the Americans, are going to work to try to put more pressure economically on the Iran regime. China buys 80% of Iranian export oil at this point, so you want to stop that. At the same time, you want to preserve diplomacy with the Chinese government. So they're going to be working that together. But then also, there's not going to be anything that the United States does against the Iran regime without hand in glove. So I would expect the two country leaders to be discussing what that would be.
With the military buildup, have you seen any evidence that the Iranian regime could fall from within, from unhappy Iranians?
Well, this is really, I think this is really important. This entire episode, where we are right now, is because of the Iranian people who are trying to take their country back. It is started organically. This is an Iranian people initiated event. And so what the United States could do at this point, I think, is create greater conditions for the Iranians to have a different regime. I would also expect at this point, President Trump really hinted at this when a reporter asked the president, who's going to replace the regime? And President Trump said, we're talking to people. So I think that there's some diplomacy going behind the scenes to make sure that there are credible Iranian people ready to take the reins in the event that the regime does fall.
We played a couple of clips. Secretary of State Marco Rubio security conference speech. I want to play a clip and I'll get you to react.
What we want is a reinvigorated alliance that recognizes that what has ailed our societies is not just a set of bad policies, but a malaise of hopelessness and complacency. An alliance is the alliance that we want is one that is not paralyzed into an act of fear of climate change, fear of war, fear of technology. Instead, we want an alliance that boldly races into the future. And the only fear we have is the fear of the shame of not leaving our nations prouder, stronger, and wealthier for our children.
Got a sense from him that he was saying many of us come from European heritage. We love Europe, but we want Europe to be strong and tough. What were your takeaways?
I thought it was a phenomenal speech. I thought it couldn't have come at a better time. The United States with our transatlantic alliances have been rocky over the past year. And so I think President Trump has been trying to get NATO to be stronger, and he's used a lot of tough rhetoric. And so Secretary Rubio now saying, look, a lot of our ideas, the founding of the United States, come from Europe. And so what happens to Europe directly affects the United States, and our fates really are tied together. So we want Europe to be strong because if the United States, with the collective West, can invest in our defenses and have a positive view of the future and collaborate together, we can maintain the peace and deter a major conflict that looks like it's brewing with these authoritarian powers, the Chinese, the Russians, the North Koreans, and the Iranians. So really, really powerful speech from Secretary Rubio laying out how to implement President Trump's vision for the future.
And there's good news on the front in terms of European allies, NATO allies spending more on defense, right?
Oh, exactly right. So European allies are now committing more in defense. They're getting serious about it. You have the Germans who are really getting serious. The Merz has said he wants Germany to be the strongest military in Europe. Interestingly, right now, the strongest military is combat tested in Europe. That's the Ukrainian military. And so Europeans would obviously like to see in the United States, Ukraine should be part of this effort, part of the West. But yes, allies are stepping up to the plate, and now if we can kind of all pull in the right direction, I think we've got a positive future.
Rebecca Heinrich's always fascinating. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Mike.
Breaking this afternoon in the search for Nancy Guthrie, the FBI says one of the gloves recovered appears to match the gloves of the suspect in the surveillance video, and the Bureau has recovered DNA from it. Back to Tucson after a quick break.
The thing about hair is, even if it starts here, it'll end up there. But Swiffer Sweeper Deluxe is made to get hair anywhere. Brooms just push and move. But Swiffer gives you a clean that's mom approved. The collapsible, storable Swiffer Sweeper Deluxe, the mother of all cleans.
Robin's eggs are nature's new beginning. Now imagine your new beginning with a Robin's egg cap that's FDA cleared to help promote hair growth. Introducing Robin's egg, the smart, safe, and affordable way for women to take control of thinning hair. Guaranteed. Similar hair growth caps sell for $2,000. But today, Robin's Egg can be yours free just for trying our hair growth activator, Eggogen. Made in the USA with naturally sourced collagen from eggshell membranes and biotin. Essential building blocks that help support stronger looking, shinier hair. Designed for women, Eggogen is drug-free and contains a clinically studied ingredient for its potential to help reduce hair shedding and support healthy hair growth.
Robin's Egg and the hair activator? It's a win-win.
Robin's Egg Dual Wavelength Technology, DWL, uses precise wavelengths of light to revitalize thinning hair, support stronger looking follicles, and help improve the appearance of fullness. FDA cleared. A treatment takes just 10 minutes a day. Simply wear it like a baseball cap and see how DWL helps support healthier looking hair. Plus, it's fully rechargeable.
It's literally turned back time, and my hair is everything to me.
During this special introductory offer, Robin's Egg, a $2,000 value, can be yours free just for trying Eggogen. Together, Robin's Egg and Eggogen support healthy hair growth and help improve the appearance of thicker, fuller-looking hair. If you don't love Eggogen, return the unused portion and keep Robin's Egg as our gift just for trying. Order now.
Call 1-800-713-6895 or visit Eggogen.com. So call 1-800-713-6895 or visit Eggogen.com now.
Advil liquid gels are faster and stronger than Tylenol rapid release gels. Also from Advil, Advil Targeted Relief, the only topical with 4 powerful pain-fighting ingredients that start working on contact and lasts up to 8 hours.
Royal Ranch. Need a hand? No, I got this. I'm about to save the king. Save the what? Save the king. He's trapped. In the game. It's the best. Plus, no ads. Yeah, right. All these games have ads, not Royal Match. That's why it's my go-to. Yes! Oh, saved him! But you didn't save the burgers. The king always comes first. Royal Match. Download now.
When I started Laura Geller Beauty over 25 years ago, I realized there weren't enough makeup options for women with mature skin. So I put together an amazing kit of everyday products for women over 40. I call it the Daily Routine. Daily Routine comes with our signature Balance of Brighten foundation, our Marbleized blush, which flatters any skin tone, our natural glow highlighter, and of course, our favorite kabuki brush to apply it. Learn more about Daily Routine at laurageller.com.
If you still haven't heard about Mott & Bow's jeans, you are missing out. Mott & Bow is the #1 premium denim company in comfort and style. Their jeans have dynamic stretch technology to provide absolute flexibility and make them perfect for everyday wear. The denim comes from some of the best denim mills in the world, so their jeans look great and last a very long time. They are probably the most comfortable jeans you'll ever wear. Head on over to mottandbow.com for the perfect balance of fit, style, and comfort.
Breaking this afternoon in the search for Nancy Guthrie, the FBI says one of the gloves recovered appears to match the gloves of the suspect in the surveillance video, and the FBI has recovered DNA from it. Let's bring in retired NYPD Lieutenant Darren Porcher. Darren, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
What is your reaction to this breaking news on the search for Nancy Guthrie, and specifically the glove with DNA in it?
Well, Mike, this is not just a lead. This has the potential to be breaking news because this is the crack in the case that we're looking for. How can we apply an identification as it relates to who we saw in the video
to a DNA sample. And fortunately, this seems as if it's going to come to fruition because we're going to run this and we're going to place this information into the CODIS database to see if this individual in fact has DNA in the CODIS database. The CODIS database has information for all individuals that are arrested in the 1990s up until now. And hopefully this will be what we need to garner us into the directional path of rescuing Nancy as well as bringing the perpetrators to custody as in relation to this case.
There was a big SWAT team FBI raid late Friday night that got a lot of us excited. I was watching very closely, but it did not produce any arrests. Does that disappoint you?
Well, Mike, it is disappointing, but at the same token, we have to take in consideration there was a magistrate that signed off on this warrant. In order for a magistrate to sign off on a warrant, there needs to be probable cause. And oftentimes, the magistrates or the judges will demand information to support if probable cause exists as it relates to what law enforcement brings forth. So it's an unfortunate occurrence, but this also shows that the men and women in law enforcement are vigorously working towards gaining a lead to concluding this case with an apprehension and bringing Nancy back home. So I don't see it as an error. I see it as police doing what's necessary to bring Nancy back home.
2 weeks later, do you think Nancy Guthrie is in that close radius to her home, or do you fear she's far from Tucson at this point?
Well, Mike, we're 60 miles away from the Mexican border, and that's oftentimes been a point of contention as it relates to the international line and her possibly being brought there. I'm optimistic, and I genuinely believe that this is a localized operation, and I think that she's in the local area. However, one of the things that's being done right now is, based on her pacemaker, we have now flown overhead devices to try to connect with the pacemaker to see if we can find her in this localized area. So I'm hopeful that she's still in this area of Tucson, and we can bring her back.
Let's go back to the breaking news of the moment, which is that glove that appears to match the glove that we've seen in the surveillance video of the suspect. How confident are you, or how excited are you about that development leading to our suspect?
I'm extremely excited and elated, and this shows the tenacity of law enforcement to move at breakneck speed to try to gain a clue as it relates to crime.